So back in April of 2021, episode 16 of the Film Utopia podcast, we talked about martial arts. General conversation. Myself, Ben, and we were joined by Max Payn as our guest, who knows more about the subject than we do because he practices it. But within that discussion, we were talking about all our favorites from back in the day, but also some of the more modern stars. And the one of the actors that myself and Max in particular that are quite keen to push is British action star Scott Adkins. And I thought I would do one of my top 10 and one for luck on Scott because he's got such a wealthy choice of movies to pick from. It's actually quite obscene how many good films that the guy's done, considering how many of them are straight to video or straight to DVD, straight to streaming, etc. Although he does dabble in the Hollywood system from time to time, and constantly seems to be wanting to sort of break out into a sort of a bigger and better mold in that sense. And he's one of the few that are still trying so hard to get in there. And I really appreciate the effort that the guy puts in. He's obviously got a huge love for action cinema, and he's got a platform to work from, but he is sort of stuck in that lower tier of action. But he's been keeping it alive since the sort of mid 2000s onwards. And it's almost like we're waiting for the rejuvenation of true action movie cinema to come back round again, what it used to be like in the 80s and certainly in the sort of the 90s. He's keeping that alive as opposed to the CGI bullshit that we get, in other places. So it would be nice, for that to happen for him. But like I said, we do see him from time to time. He pops up in the occasional big movie, either in a supporting role or he'll get the occasional bad guy, or even act as a stunt double. But I'm going to give you my top 10 Adkins performances, I guess. So movies and performances, I guess, are sort of melding them together. My one for luck I'm going to mention is actually one of the Hollywood ones, which is The Expendables 2, where he plays the main sidekick to Jean-Claude Van Damme. He and Van Damme, they've worked on 4 movies together. And the interesting thing about that is that they've played good and bad guy against each other, but they've also played good guys together, which I'll mention later. But then in this film, they played bad guys together, which is pretty fun. I don't think they have a personal relationship outside of cinema. They just happen to have done quite a lot of movies together. And Adkins even did a sequel to one of Van Damme's movies, Hard Target 2, which we won't talk about that on this list. But Expendables 2, it's a supporting role, but he does stand out. He gets to have a fight with Jason Statham in it. It's over way too quickly. I think even they knew after the fact that it should have been a longer fight, but it's not necessarily a bad fight. It is good. He does stand out, and it's pretty cool. So that's my little extra one there. Going into the top 10, I just mentioned Van Damme there, that they played good guys together. I'm going to list Assassination Games on the bottom of this at number 10 because I think it was the first film that I saw with Adkins in that I was actually aware of who I was seeing, as opposed to seeing a film and then he's in it. This is about around about 2010 sort of era, 2011 maybe, where I'm sort of slowly becoming aware of who he is. He'd done the Deadpool body double in that X-Men Origins movie. So I think that's where someone started saying, oh, you watch out for this guy, he's really good, he's done this, and this. But this was the first film that I saw because it was coming out for rent or for sale, and I was covering films on the work website at the time, and I got sent it to review. And being a Van Damme fan, I was like, yeah, give me that, I'll do it. And I was like, oh, it's got this dude, I've heard his name, let's see what he's like. And it's a pretty good performance that he puts in. The film itself is fine. It's I don't have any particular problems with it. It's not, setting the world ablaze or anything. But it certainly perked my interest. So I wanted to put it in here on the list just, for that sake. I was like, this guy's actually, he can move, he can fight. He's a good-looking fella, and he can act. So let's see what else he's got. So that's why that one's added in here. My number 9 again is another supporting role. This will be the last supporting role that's on this list. But from here onwards, it's pretty much he's the lead guy, and that's Ip Man 4. Now, Ip Man 4. This is on the strength of how much I love Donnie Yen, despite the fact that I don't actually like this kind of martial arts movies generally, where people hit each other like 1,000 times and no one starts bleeding. It's all way too quick. But Adkins does come in as a superb villain, but he does come into the film quite late on. But he is like the main antagonist that Donnie Yen has to show down with against at the end, and it is strong stuff. And for a fourth movie in this franchise, and the final one, I believe so. Anyway, it was pretty damn good. So that one's in there. Number 8, I'm going to slightly cheat. So I've got Debt Collectors or The Debt Collector 2, but I'm also going to give mention to the first one as well. This is a buddy movie, Scott Adkins and Louis Mandylor, and they are debt collectors. They basically get sent around to pick up cash that's owed to their boss. And usually they end up getting into a fight, and quite often it's Mandylor stepping to the side while Adkins does all the fighting and complaining, getting hit or charged by all these people. He's like, "Will you bloody help me out?" So there's a lot of comedy there to be had. But the second one, it sort of really ups the ante, and the relationship between these two guys is a lot funnier. And they finally throw down in the second one together, and there's a lovely homage to They Live in that respect. Anyone that's seen that film will know what I mean. So definitely go check this one out. It's action buddy comedy type stuff, and it's a delight. It's great fun. Number 7 is Ninja 2: Shadow of a Tear. Beautiful looking film. So this is the sequel to Ninja, which again was a very beautiful looking film, but it was very basic. I do recommend people watch Ninja if you like anything else that you've seen Scott Adkins in. Definitely watch it, but it is a bit sort of plain. A little bit more boring, I guess, in that sense, but it's by no means not bad. Whereas Shadow of a Tear, ups its game. The fights are better. The stories, a lot more. There's a lot more going on there, and the performance is a lot better as well. So it's basically, one of these sequels that, easily betters the original and has some terrific fight scenes in it. Ken Kasugi shows up as well, so he's very, very good whenever you see him fighting. So Ninja 2, Shadow of a Tear, definitely check that out. That's at my number 7. My number 6 is a sort of British crime sort of thriller called Avengements, where this is one of his more sort of grizzled and rough dramatic roles that he's done, but a lot of it is set in the present. It's set in a pub where he's holding people hostage, the character that he plays, and he's basically getting avengement for what's happened in his life. And you see what's happened in his life in flashback, up to the present day, how he ended up going to prison and losing half his teeth, ending up a real fucking bruiser and then some, and it's pretty damn good. Yeah, this is another example of, it's not all about the fighting. It's much, much more about the acting this time round, and the brutality as well. So it is a solid performance. Number 5, this is a real treat, is Triple Threat. This is Adkins back on bad guy duties. I remember laughing out loud when he entered the movie, because he basically gets rescued by his chummies. So he's got some sidekicks, including the likes of Michael Jar White, also on bad guy duties, and they pull him out of this pit that he's been kept in, and it's basically like he's meant to have been down there for years. Although his body is still toned and muscular, he's got this ridiculous beard and this like pencil troll like doll type hair. It's just ridiculously long, and clearly like the world's nastiest wig, but it looks so funny. That aside, once he's had a haircut and a shave, business gets on, because you've got the good guys, Tony Jaa, Iko Uwais going up against them, and man, there are some face-offs in this. If I've ever complained about action movies like Expendables not having enough mano-a-mano fights between your team of good guys and your bad guys, it's like, let me see them, this guy face off against that guy and that guy face off against that guy. Expendables 2 had 2 of those fights, and that was it. It should have been more. Scott Adkins should have fought someone else earlier on in the film, and Van Damme should have kicked the head in of at least 2 of the bloody Expendables before his showdown with Stallone. It's all about matching up the names and having fights. This film has that, and Adkins has one of my favorite fights that he's ever put to screen, where he kicks the living shit out of 2 people at the one time, and fucking wins as well. You think, well, the bad guy's going to get taken down, and he does get taken down, but not in that fight. It's pretty damn good. So yeah, Triple Threat. Check that one out. Number 4. I don't know if this one will remain this high. It's this high because I've seen it twice, and both times it blew me away. And the first time I watched this was when I was in a hotel room um, in Sydney, where I was staying with my wife, and just watching, what they had on the TV. And I was like, oh wow, they got a couple of Scott Adkins movies. Oh, I haven't seen One Shot. Oh fuck it, I'll check it out. And I did know the premise of it was that it's all one continuous shot. And I thought low budget action movie, a hardcore Henry type thing, but it's not first person. It is, you see the actors move in and out of the shots and stuff, but it is all done as one continuous shot. And I was flabbergasted at how well this was put together. It was amazing, and the story itself was pretty damn good. It was pretty gripping, and the supporting cast were pretty damn good, pretty gripping. And on both sides, even the bad guys, the camera at one point goes off and spends time with them, so you get to see them, stretch a few sort of acting muscles as this siege goes on at this camp, and it was fascinating. And again, and it's not even a long film; it's like less than an hour and a half. But yeah, my jaw hit the fucking floor when I watched this. It was so engrossing. Absolutely loved it. So hats off to the cinematographer and the director for putting this together, and for the actors for doing however many long takes they had to do. It's an absolute winner. So I highly recommend One Shot. Now, my top 3. Now, these are films that I have seen repeatedly. And my number 3 position, I have, again, this is a cheat because it's like with Ninja and Debt Collector. I have more than one film because it's a franchise, and it's the Undisputed franchise. But we're not talking all 4 movies. We're talking movies 2, 3, and 4. Because those are the ones that feature Adkins. He is the main. This is a prison set drama, fight drama, and he is the main antagonist that Michael Jai White faces off against in the second film. He then becomes the protagonist in the third film to fight his way back to the top, and then in the fourth one, it just continues his story again. So he's the main protagonist again. So it's really strange that a character will come in as a bad guy and then become the good guy in the following movie. And technically, the second film already did that from the first film, because in the first film, Michael Jai White's character, played by Ving Rhames, is the bad guy. So he's technically the bad guy in the first film, but he becomes the protagonist in the second film. And then Scott Adkins goes from bad to good from the second to the third film. And then the fourth film, they just continued with him. And these are... the fight choreography in these films are insane. The stuff that these people do is just absolutely crazy. And has to be seen to be believed. These are definitely notches on his Wookiee belt for sure. And all 3. I mean, the fourth one I think is probably my least favorite, and not because it's the fourth one and they ran out of steam. It's just the second and third one were that much more intense. But I'm not sure which one I like more, 2 or 3. And if I ever think about what one am I going to put on, I'll probably just go fuck it and put them both on. And then if I'm still got time, I'll watch the fourth one as well. So the Boyka movie, Undisputed, yes. Boyka is the name of his character. That's why I call it the Boyka trilogy. Okay, so moving on to my second position, and this is probably the one I've seen the most so far, and it was probably the second Scott Adkins movie I saw, maybe the third, depending on what order I saw it, before or after Expendables 2, and again it's him and Van Damme, so it's like 3 movies in a row with him and Van Damme in it. It's Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning. This is the 4th official Universal Soldier movie, and it really doesn't. It's kind of like they hit the reboot button, but it's not really that at all. It's just a completely different story from what had come before, but happens to feature characters that were in the previous movies, including Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren. Except this time around, Van Damme is seen as the bad guy, leading this sort of cult, and Adkins is your main character and your main hero. So we think, and it is a trippy movie. It really is. And if anyone suffers from you don't like strobes, flashing lights, seriously beware of this film, because there's a lot of that in it, and it will hurt your eyes. So a little warning there. But that aside, again, it's all down to the fights, the fight choreography, insane stuff. The sporting goods store is clearly a standout scene. But there's other things, but I think the performance also stands out as well. And there's a great sort of one shot tracker, although it cheats, going in and out of dark corridors at the end in this base, which is insane as well. But yeah, Adkins' performance is also very good in this, and he has a nice little face off against himself in a cabin, which was very creepy. But yeah, the guy's got some chops. So this was the one I think that made me a solid, like, yes, I'm definitely watching everything this dude does. Assassination Games, I was like, all right, cool, let's see what he's got. And then this showed me what he's got. And it still, ranks really, really high up for me. So do definitely check out. You don't need to see the prequels, really, because the film's trippy anyway. Just put it on and have a blast. So my number one then is a film that he actually co-wrote with a mate of his. It's adapted from, I think it's a 2000 AD comic called Accident Man, and it's based on a comic book movie. He is the Accident Man. He basically is a hitman who kills people and makes their deaths look like an accident. That's the sort of premise of the character, but the story goes a little bit deeper. That someone close to him gets murdered, and he tries to figure out what's going on, and you get a nice, colorful array of characters and guest stars in here. David Paymer is suitably slimy. Michael Jai White again shows up, and he shows up with Ray Park. So they're buddies who work together, which is hilarious. But I've got to say, man of the match has to go to Ray Stevenson as the sort of the boss of sort of the pub that they all go to. Big Ray, he is absolutely fantastic, just golden, that guy. But this one stands out because I think this is where Atkins really, really sort of works the sort of the levels of humor and action together, just seamlessly. I think it worked perfectly. And the good news is that there's a sequel out already called Accident Man: Hitman's Holiday, and I'd love to tell you that I love it. But I haven't fucking seen it. Because why? Because it hasn't fucking been released out here in Australia yet. I've been screaming on the internet for it, and where the hell is it? God damn it! So don't know what's going on there, but I do know that it has had a good response, and a lot of people sort of saying either it's better than the original, or as good, or as fun, a nice continuation of the character. So there's a little trailer there for that for you and I to get on, because I'd love to see it. And the other one to look out for this year will be Adkins showing up in John Wick Chapter 4. How much screen time he's going to have in that, considering the amount of people that are in it and the big names that are in it, I think he's going to be relegated to a very small role, but we'll see. I'll be excited to see him show up anyway. So there you go. That's that. If you do want to go back and listen to our original martial arts podcast, then, like I said, it came out on the 14th of April 2021. It's episode 16 on the scroll. So if you scroll to find it, it will just say 16.martialarts, and then you'll have a little listen to the three of us talk about that subject. Anyway, thanks again, and don't forget to subscribe and follow. Thank you.